Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's DEALERUN webinar, How to Get Maximum Results from Your Vendors. My name is Eliana Raggio and I'll be your moderator today. And today's webinar is being presented by DEALERUN. And for anyone who isn't familiar with DEALERUN, well, we're an award-winning website development company and digital agency. And we're best known for our search engine optimization, our best-in-class customer service, and our award-winning websites. At the last NADA, DEALERUN received the Best in Show Award for website design from Dealer Marketing Magazine. DEALERUN was named the top-rated website provider by Driving Sales in 2012 and 2013, and DEALERUN customers have been winners of the Digital Dealer Website Excellence Awards, highly coveted overall winner, and unprecedented 5 times in a row. DEALERUN's the only website company that can claim that. DEALERUN is so committed to lead conversion, optimization, and customer service that we're the only company in the industry to offer a money-back lead guarantee program. So, does your website company guarantee you leads? Well, then maybe you should check us out at DEALERUN.com. And we have such a great show in store for you today. We're very pleased to have Subi Ghosh as our presenter today. Subi Ghosh is the Director of Marketing and E-Commerce at Joyce Coons Automotive. Her unrelenting focus on whole dealership buy-in and inclusion of the sales personnel on all digital marketing efforts has garnered her incredible success in that position. Prior to Joyce Coons, Subi has spent time as the Internet Director at both Preston Automotive in Maryland and the Basil Automotive Group in Buffalo, New York. She was also recently a guest blogger for Dealer Knows and a speaker at both the Digital Dealer and Driving Sales conventions this past fall. Subi keeps actively involved in the automotive community in an effort to share her knowledge, grow within her profession, and hopefully, in some small part, improve the way the industry sells and markets cars. Subi can be reached at sghosh@joycecoons.com. Now, during the presentation, if you have any questions, please use the question feature located on the corner of your screen to submit them. At the end of the presentation, we'll answer those questions of general interest. If we're unable to get to your question live, don't worry, we'll respond by email later today. Also, don't forget, a link to download a copy of the webinar recording will also be emailed to you later today for your reference, and please feel free to share it with friends and colleagues. Actually, share it with everyone. And by the way, DEALERUN is going to be at the upcoming NADA convention January 24th through the 27th in New Orleans. So if you're going to be there, come visit us at booth 5209. And we'll talk about websites, SEO, digital marketing, conversion rates, whatever. And you know what? We'd love to meet you, so please be sure to stop by the booth. And while you're there, also check out the speaking sessions from Jeff Clark and Chris Deringer. They are both fantastic speakers, so you definitely going to want to check them out. Jeff Clark's going to be talking about proven digital strategies that increase fixed ops, and Chris Deringer is going to talk about how to sell more cars with Google Analytics. Both amazing. You're going to love it. And guess what? Our good friends at Joyce Coons Automotive are giving away a pretty cool prize today on the webinar. One of you lucky webinar attendees will win your very own detective fingerprint kit. So, as much as you may have to be detectives with your vendors, well, sometimes you have to be detectives in the office. This fabulous prize will help you practice your detective skills and help you catch any sticky fingers stealing your prized possessions off your desk. All you have to do is stay tuned for details after Subi's presentation, and you could be walking away with this really fun prize today. Also, at the conclusion of the webinar, you're going to receive a short survey, so please fill it out because we're always looking for great feedback from our audience. Today we're going to randomly select a couple of people from all the completed surveys to also win some Google prizes. So let's get started. Let's learn how to get maximum results from your vendors. Subi, how the heck are you, girl? It's so good to have you on here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, the
I'm
pleasure.
Really excited.
Believe me, it's definitely mine. I couldn't stop hearing from people about how you just slayed it during the fall conventions with your 2 different presentations. So thank you so much today for coming on and talking to us about this topic. This is a great topic, by the way, and we've never even had anything remotely like it. So I'm curious about all the things we're going to be learning about today, but how did you come up with this, and is it just because you deal with so many vendors, you figured, you know what, this is something people in the industry definitely need help with? How did this all come about?
That's exactly it. I have been working in internet departments for a while, and I had different responsibilities. but one of the things that was always constant is that we always had to work with different vendors. And I think it's something that's extremely misunderstood as to why we need to be partners and what we can get out of vendors that's not just beating them up over price or complaining. I think there's a way that we can work together, and that takes some work on both parts. And I think also that vendors need a little message too, and to have that communication, because I don't think a lot of vendors know what their reps are doing as they visit dealers as well. So this might be a really great way to get both sides in on what it takes to be great partners. It's the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal in any vendor-dealer relationship should be to become true partners. And that's really what we're going to be talking about today. So how to pick great vendors, how to monitor, manage, evaluate, and to create and cultivate true partnerships. And we're going to have a little message to the vendors at the end.
And then we're going to do a Q&A, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so audience, don't be shy. Subi loves your questions.
I do. So we want to get started with a poll question.
Oh, that's a great idea. All right, audience, we're going to get started right away with a poll question. And this is to help Subi in tailoring exactly what she is going to say today to you. So it would really help out if you join in on this first poll question. We want to know, easy question, what is your current job title? So please select one of them. Which category do you fall in? Are you an owner or a GM? Are you part of the dealership staff? Are you an internet manager or a director? Are you a GSM or a sales manager of some kind? Or are you a vendor? Well, we want to know. Once we get a majority of the votes, we'll close the poll and share the results. And the votes are still coming in. And, of course, audience, we want to thank you so much for coming to today's webinar, but also to get involved with our poll questions. We really appreciate it. I know, Subi, you're appreciating this, right?
Oh, definitely. It really helps me to understand who I'm talking to.
Yes, exactly. And I'm wondering if it says something different than what you were thinking, you're going to change it up a little bit? Is that what you're going to do?
Well, I'm going to be focusing my message based on who's really interested in the information.
I hear you. Well, we have almost everyone voting, so thank you so much, audience. We're going to close this poll and share the results. Are you ready, Sue?
I am.
Here we go. Okay, well, we don't have any owners or GMs on today's call, but we do have 24% of today's audience are dealership staff, and boom, half of today's audience, 50%, are either internet managers or internet directors. Only 5% of today's audience are GSMs or sales managers, and 21% of today's audience are vendors. Thank you so much for being here today. All right, does that help you out, Subi?
It does. It does. So we're going to get started with really why. Why do we need to talk about this? And I'm going to start with a little personal story. This is me on top of my dealership, wondering why my job seems so difficult at times. And it really, when we're working in these departments, it ends up being the product, or problems aren't getting resolved, or my rep just doesn't get me, there's no communication. There's all different problems that we face. And sometimes we jump, not necessarily off a building, but we jump to conclusions. And it really comes down to, you know, what those conclusions are. Now, if we work on these things and we address each of these things, we can have a much better foundation, and that's really what I want to address today. Now, every single one of us has a product or a vendor that we're absolutely in love with or we absolutely hate. But we can also run into people through our networks that have the complete opposite reaction, and these building blocks are usually the reason why. One of these things is working for them, or hopefully all. And there's a way that we can help do our part as dealers to make this partnership what it should be. Now, why am I basing this on TV detectives? I'm a crime detective show junkie, so I love it. Not only is it exceptionally cool, but it's also really necessary to investigate and get all of your information.
Who do we have there?
We have Bill Playford and Joe Webb.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, this is what they do in their free time.
Yeah, they look styling in those suits. Love it.
Yeah.
People are commenting, great slide, loved the Miami Vice reference.
We need to evaluate, and monitor our vendors consistently. Now, if we do that, not only do we have a much better outlook and control over our departments and what's happening with them, but we can also make our budget go further. We all have complaints. We often have complaints that we don't have a great budget to work with. And if you want your budget to go far, the best thing that you can do is to work with your vendors and track and know what to look for, so you can remove vendors that maybe aren't doing what you need to do, and then focus that on vendors that could be helping you get to where you need to get to. So we're going to start off with checking our dark alleys and shadows. And there we have Micah and Megan, the Twitter queen.
I love it.
We have to, when picking vendors, research is really key. Now use every single thing available to you. There's so many forums out there. I have my favorites. I'm sure you have yours. Use their own websites and reviews. Now, the thing about reviews is you want to know that negative information that's out there, just like our consumers do. Because for us, when we're dealing with these vendors, we can talk about, these are the weaknesses I've seen that you display. These are what I'm seeing people talking about. Have you fixed it? Now, these reviews, they're not, just like our dealerships, management changes, technology changes, they may have fixed something. They may have addressed those issues. So make sure you know it, but address it as well. And forums, there's no greater place to look than your network. And people that are in positions just like yours that can talk to you about their experiences working with those products. Now, vendors do change, so keep that in mind as you go forward. Somebody who had terrible customer service last year might have excellent customer service this year. And someone who had the greatest technology 5 months ago may not have kept up with the latest updates and may be falling off the map. So you don't want to sign up for someone who's not paying attention to those things. That's not to say they don't have things in place to fix or address those issues, but you also want to be in on the loop to make sure that you don't fall victim to signing up with someone at the time where they're not willing to look at those things or they're not having things in place to help. New vendors are my favorite just because they haven't been in the game for 20 years and they haven't been written about and gotten all these awards in the last 6 months doesn't mean they have something great to offer. So always look for those new vendors. Now, when
I cannot tell. Who is that?
That's Joey Little.
Oh! I thought...
So, approach slowly.
That is a nice mustache.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you have to have a Magnum PI mustache. So you want to be in control, and the best way to be in control is to have that research in hand. Now, don't rely on their references. Always ask and seek out people that are currently using these products and services. I always ask for information before the pitch because what better way to go into a meeting than to be knowledgeable? We don't go into an interview and know nothing about the company. You want to know so that you're not, it's a sell or be sold world. You don't want to be the one that's sold and regret it a week later when we have dealer employees to make sure that they get the right amount of traffic and sales that we need to make as well. And then always talk to the people that have negative experiences and find out what went wrong. But keep in mind that their negative experiences may be due to their own dealership concerns. So with a grain of salt, learn about those things, but you also want to make sure that you know it to address it. Weaknesses, I always have a little list of weaknesses when I go into a pitch. I always want to make sure to address those with my vendors. And they're pretty honest. They'll always be honest with you. They know that these things are going on. It's not that if they lie to you, then you also, your decision's already made up. So how do they address concerns and issues with their products? Now, I think we'd be lying to say that there's a perfect CRM company or perfect website company or perfect any company out there. They all have flaws. It's about how they deal with those flaws and how they communicate with you that makes all the difference. So find out their support hours. How efficient are they in getting these things fixed? How willing are they to address something that they may not already have? Are they willing to work with you and get to a place? I personally am obsessed with my website company because they are willing to do that. It happens to be DEALERUN, but it's not because I'm on a DEALERUN webinar. They're willing to challenge me as well as be challenged, and that's my absolute favorite thing. So as long as you're willing to have those kinds of relationships, that could really, really prove a benefit to your dealership. And how long does it take to do anything? To get a response for your ticket, to get a response to your email. These are really important. And my mentor in the industry, Webb, has told me to always, always ask for their competition. They know who their competition is. So if they're on the top of your list, find out who their competition is and find out what makes them different. They'll tell you. Pitch or be pitched, the interrogation. So you've gotten to the point where you need to get to the pitch. So as you're sitting there, make sure you be prepared with questions. Make sure you have questions available so that you're not just being sold. You can challenge them and throw them off the game a little bit. Sorry, vendors. But it needs to be a conversation, and it can't be a one-sided conversation. And always remember why you were looking in the first place. Why did you decide to look at a new vendor? What was wrong with the first one? So that it's like you don't want to go to grocery shopping on an empty stomach, right? Just because you're trying to get rid of a vendor isn't a great reason to jump into a new vendor. Make sure you know why you were looking. And every single pitch always comes with the greatest shiny object that they want to show you how awesome this new thing is that they're doing. But the problem with those new things is they're not always ready for the market, and they haven't been tested, and they're not even something that you can use in the next maybe 6 months. So make sure you address those things. How long is it going to be before I can use that? And will that work with the rest of the tool or with the other tools that I have? So if it's an inventory tool, you want to make sure that they all work well together and the feeds don't get messed up, because inventory is so imperative to us. And my line that I always use is, if it's not functional, it's not worth it. Don't talk to me about it if I can't use it for a year. And again, just reiterating the things that I always ask about. What's the cancellation like? What are your customer service hours? If my dealership is open till 8 o'clock and you are out at 5, if something happens to my inventory, what happens then? You always want to know these things, because you don't want to be surprised when you have no inventory on the biggest sales weekend of the month, and that has happened to me. One of the greatest things that I ever figured out is an account advocate. A lot of companies have 800 numbers that you can call, which is great, but you also want to have someone that you can refer to. And if someone doesn't give me an account advocate, I find myself one. I send in tickets, find out who's responding the way that works for me and that gets me, and then I pick someone. And I've done that in the past, and these people end up being great friends and great allies in this vendor partnership venture. And then deconstruct a package if you can. If it has 12 things that you don't need, talk to them. They might be willing to work with you to just give you the things that you do need and save you some of your budget. I have, in previous dealerships, had, if I wanted to test anything out, I had to pay out of my own pocket. So watching my budget was extremely important to me. And I know that there's a lot of internet managers and internet directors out there that are constricted to doing the latest and greatest things because of budget. So you want to make your budget go far and get the greatest things, you might be able to deconstruct it a little bit. So we have some of the Dealer Refresh crew there.
I was going to say, is that Kirshner?
Yes, that is definitely Kirshner.
He sent you a picture of him wearing glasses, did he?
Oh no, I stole pictures.
Now it makes sense.
So what you want to do is, when you get down to figuring out, narrowing down your final selections, you want to make sure you set realistic expectations when you start moving forward to signing up. I know that we're busy, but setting standing meetings is the most important thing in vendor partnerships. Like I said, it goes both ways. If you need something from them, you've got to give them the time to really understand and speak to them. They know their product better than anyone. And I have at times rolled my eyes like, I'm pretty tech savvy, I'm sure I can figure it out, see you later. But there are things that that maybe aren't on the surface for us to click through and figure out that we may need their guidance in. So make sure you talk to them and get to know their best practices. They may know secrets of how to use their tool. It doesn't necessarily always have to be that I don't know what I'm doing. It can be that we grow from every single one of these things. So make sure that you communicate. That's really the basis. I'm going to say that 1,000 times. The basis of any relationship is communication. Define expectations. I think a lot of times we walk into vendor relationships, we sign the contract, and then it's up to them. They're supposed to do their thing. They have to install it, and then they'll get me reports, and I'm sure it'll be fine. And it may be, but it's better to set expectations. I treat my vendor partners like an extension of my department. We are contracting them out to do a segment of the responsibilities. And if I can treat them like a part of my department, that means I hold them accountable, which is what we all want from our vendors. That means I can tell them when something isn't working well. And we have that flow of communication like I just talked about. And we know when things are expected. And when they know what you're expecting of them, they can also tell you what they expect of you. And no one's disappointed in that. So these are a few things that I think really need to be addressed right as you're signing a contract, maybe even beforehand, definitely afterwards. How am I going to find out what the progress is like? Who are my contacts for everything? If I have a different set of people that I have to talk to about installation, then I need to know who I'm supposed to contact about non-installation stuff. Who do I contact in case of an emergency? What if something goes down? Websites, CRM companies, and inventory are 3 of our biggest vendor relationships, and all of those things can hinder our daily business, especially on a Saturday when it's exceptionally busy. So you want to make sure you know who you can contact. And me personally, I used to get really frustrated that one of my reps would just stop by for 4 hours and sit at my desk, and I would hate it. But it occurred to me that he didn't know that I hated it. So I had expectation meetings when I hire someone and when I sign a contract. These are the things that I prefer. This is the way to best use me to make this product work. Your vendors, especially the reps that come around, they need for this partnership to work. It affects them as well. So we have to keep that in mind. So this way, I'm an email person. Email me, text me, don't just stop in. I'm someone who likes to have a schedule. So if you throw that off by stopping in to talk to me, I get thrown off, and I'm not going to give you the time that you deserve. So it's at standing meetings. This is how I like to do it, and then they'll follow that. Compile your evidence. Captain,
that's the best looking one so far, right there. I don't know if Kevin knew that he would look like that with the full dark hair.
That's what I was going for. I wanted to see what he would look like.
I just want you to know he just tweeted, I could use that hair. Yeah, I'm reading the tweets.
So are you utilizing what you're paying for? Really what it comes down to, keeping your own numbers and reports, that's key. You want to make sure that you have something to reference their numbers on. Cross-referencing numbers is extremely important. If they come in and say, well, we sent you 50 leads and your reports are only showing 5, there might be a problem. You might not be getting those leads, or they might be duplicates, and you can tell them about it so that you can adjust the way that you go about calculating ROI. You need to be able to verify what a company is doing for you to make it a reasonable line on your budget. And then define rules for consistency. This is something that's really important. When you're going through and calculating your own numbers, make sure you set a set of rules aside so that it's always the same numbers. You want to be consistent of how you are defining a duplicate lead versus is it going to be 30 days and then it becomes a duplicate, or you want to make sure that you identify those so that when you go back month over month, year over year, that you're looking at the same numbers so that you can talk about trends and really go forward in making decisions on your budget of which vendors to keep and which ones not to if you have to make those decisions. Doing your part. So what that really means is doing that 50% of the work and making sure that you have something to talk to them about when you do your standing meetings, so that if in fact one of your vendors isn't working, you can say this is why it's not working, and you might be able to help them help you and fix whatever is ailing. Don't get tricked. Don't find yourself having to unveil a masked villain and not know one day that you were just wasting thousands and thousands of dollars. I actually love Arnold, but with all the clown jokes, I had to get back at him. So
Jinkies! Zoinks! I don't know. What are all the words?
There's a few people there. You've got.
Who do we? You should. Yeah, you need to point out who everyone is, since they have a starring role in today's presentation.
We've got Hunter from Dealer Socket. We have Brian Armstrong in there. Arnold, Dealer Knows. Renee, Coach Renee. And we have Katie from Cuneo Advertising, and Walt Dabrowski.
Oh, that's a great group. Yes, that is Renee Stewart. She's looking very fly in that purple ensemble.
Beautiful. Yeah. Prepare the witnesses.
Oh man, I wish AJ was here. Is AJ here today? No,
I'm going to send him a screenshot of that.
Oh, that is so precious.
So once you understand what the expectations are, you want to make sure to hold both the vendors and your team accountable, because you can be doing everything with the vendor, and if your team isn't logging customers correctly or adding their notes properly, you're skewing your results for how the tool is actually working. So make sure that you communicate with your teams as well, that every salesperson is doing what they need to be doing before you jump to conclusions about whether a product is or isn't working. And it's okay to manage them. Treat them like any other employee. Lay out your needs, wants, expectations, and communicate regularly. Like I said, I'm going to say communicate a lot. And it's okay to question everything. All my vendors know that I'm going to question every number, and now they come prepared with how they arrived at those numbers for the most part. It's important because we can't just believe every statistic. Every statistic is skewed for its purposes. So that's not to say that they're all wrong. It's just to make sure that you have your own baseline of understanding. Make sure you question. If they say that their leads are the best in the world and you should be closing 100% of it, how do you get to that number? Because if I'm going to hold my team accountable to that number, I need to know why and how you've approached to that number. Hear them out. The huge stacks of papers that your vendors come around with actually explains what's going on in your region and nationally, and it's really important to understand those things so that you can make decisions for your team. Maybe inventories, maybe the way that you are marketing. It's really important to look through those and hear them out. And sometimes those lines are a little difficult, so we shut ourselves off from hearing anything they have to say, but just keep an open mind. Stand your ground. If they promised you something, make sure they give it to you in a timely fashion. It's okay to say, hey, you promised me this, even if they become friends. That's one of the things in this industry. Car people get car people, so we become really close friends with our vendors. And it's okay to hold your friends and your vendors accountable to what you signed a contract for, because it's still your job and it's okay to do that, and they'll understand it too. This is something that is, I have to be careful about how I say this, because popularity and the quality of a product are two very different things. Just because someone has a great persona or a company has a great image doesn't mean that they're going to do what they need to do for you. So make sure you go into a vendor relationship understanding what you want to expect from them. I've been burned too many occasions jumping into what I thought was the greatest. And so I would urge you to consider that popularity and quality are two different things. Sometimes the really popular vendors have great quality, but you just have to be cautious of it going into it. ROI is so important, and I know that every single vendor comes in saying, well, it's really not okay to quantify what it is that we do, so don't worry about it. Just because it doesn't relate in sales doesn't mean you can't figure out a way, define something. So if I'm going to sign up with vendor X and I can't say that they attribute for X number of sales, because there are things that bring us traffic, you can look at a lot of things. Look at how many clicks it's going to get you to your website, how many phone calls. And then what I did at my very first dealership is to put out a sheet of paper that we hit the customers with on the first moment they walked in, and then also, again, in F&I, to find out what traffic sources they were using, not just one, all of them. You can figure out a way to see what your customers are responding well to. So you can figure out some sort of ROI, some sort of metric that says, this is how I'm going to evaluate you. If a salesperson or an employee walked in with a new kind of position, which a lot of our internet managers and directors get what I'm talking about. Sometimes it's hard to tell people what we do and have them understand it because they think that we're playing Tetris all day. So if you figure out a metric that says, this is how we're saying that you're doing a good job, and this is how I'm going to evaluate you, and come to a good term with your vendor and come to an agreement, then you're able to figure out your own version of ROI that doesn't always relate to sales, even though the end result will be. So when you reach a decision, make sure you give yourself time to make that decision. Don't just say, this vendor sucks, I'm going to find someone and we'll be up and running in about a week, because it doesn't happen that way. Find out how long it's going to take to get it going before you make any rash decisions. Review your evidence. Sometimes we find that a product's working better or worse than we think it is, and make sure you stick to your evidence and go over it over and over again. Every single month, sit down and take a look at what your traffic is like, what your Google Analytics or your phone tracking is telling you, and then compare it to look for trends. Talk to your vendors early and often, and that just means make sure that you have that communication to go to them when there's a problem early before you just give up on them, because it could just be that there's a feed issue. It could just be that there's a minor tweak that they have to make on their side. We're working with computer problems. Just like we have issues with our computers, our vendors do too. And yes, we sign contracts and we pay them to do certain things, but sometimes they don't find it. So make sure you communicate with them. It may be a simple thing that could be fixed, and they will work hard to fix it for you. And then always look internally. When I see a problem that I don't understand as to why it's happening, I always look internally, because it could be something that we're doing wrong too. And you may have a very valid case that your vendor is not doing something right, but there is something that maybe we can fix. And cancellation info, the last thing you want to do is cancel with a company and have to pay 3 extra months. And then your case is closed. Now, I have thus far been pretty heavy on what we need to do to make vendor partnerships work. But the other side of that is what vendors need to do too. And since there's such a great number of you, I figure I could be kind of a middle point of communicating what it is we need to do. Hold on a second here. This is a video made by the infamous Webb, which I find absolutely hysterical and completely on point. So I hope you guys enjoy this.
Okay, make sure the audio's up. Hey, Subi, can you hear me? Hey, Subi, can you hear me?
So
Subi?
thank you to Joe Webb for letting me use that.
Hey, Subi?
Yes,
Subi?
I can. Yes?
Yeah, that video did not come off as well as it did in rehearsal. That we couldn't hear it, it was choppy, but they couldn't hear any of the audio. There was nothing there, unfortunately. So
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you go back to that YouTube page, and real quick, could you take that YouTube link and maybe send it to me so I can send it out to the entire audience?
Absolutely. Not a problem.
Oh, look at oh, people already have it for me.
There you go.
Okay, hold on, audience. I'm going to get you this YouTube link so that you can check it out, because it is a really funny video. All right, so here we go. Send to all. So you should all have that link in your chat feature in your question box. I just sent it out to everyone. So actually, let me send it out to the entire audience over this way too. Boom. Okay, so audience, when you get a chance, check out that video. Of course not while Subi's talking, but check out that video. Basically, it was one vendor, Joe Webb, saying, yeah, there's something wrong with your website, you know, to our female consumer. And she's like, yeah, well, can you fix it? Can you fix it? And he's like, no, you know what? It's that other guy's problem. So then Jerry Tebow gets on and he says, he said it was my problem? No. It's definitely on his side, you know, and it was going back and forth. And in the end, the consumer doesn't have an answer because the two vendors are just blaming each other. Is that correct? Did I pretty much sum it up?
That is correct.
All right, so there you go. So now that you have the highlights of that,
and
we do want to thank the participants in this video for letting us use it. Thank you so much. It was very, very humorous. I'm sure you'll find it humorous when you get a chance to watch it yourself. Subi, go ahead.
I think this is something that every internet manager or director can relate to. We have oftentimes gotten on the phone and, you know, not gotten the response that we want, and it takes such a big effort to get mediation. And I think a lot of vendors have actually come a long way to participate in just picking up the phone and calling the person. There's a lot of great relationships in the industry with, especially with inventory and things like that. But I'm sure it still happens. So now we're going to address our dear vendors. So what I did is I want to start with a poll question.
Let's do that. Okay, audience, here is your last poll question. So we want to know, what do you hate the most about your current vendor relationships? Now, I'm sure you have some vendors that you absolutely adore and they can do no wrong, but for those vendors who just, they irritate you, there must be one main reason. What it is about them that you just cannot move forward with this vendor and get the maximum results that you so badly want. So what is that thing that you hate the most about dealing with your vendors? Is it, and please just select one of the following options, is that they walk in unannounced? Is it that they overstay their welcome? Is it that they lack proper communication skills? You just can't seem to get through to them? Is it little or no response for the tickets that you submit or the concerns that you voice? Or is it when they overpromise you something or, conversely, underdeliver something? Okay, so whatever it is, we want to know, what is the thing that you hate the most about your vendor relationships? Please select one of the following. And I'm noticing that there's a number of people on here who aren't participating in the poll question. I can only surmise that it is actually the vendors themselves. So it's okay. You can sit this one out. I totally get it. But you're going to get your answer in just a minute here on what really, really irritates our auto community when dealing with their vendors. Audience, thank you so much for participating in this very important question. Subi, when you're ready, I will close this poll and share the results with you.
I'm ready.
Okay, audience, here we go. Closing this poll and sharing the results. 13% of today's audience say that they really hate it when their vendors walk in unannounced. Only 3% said they hate it when they overstay their welcome. 16% of today's audience said the lack of communication is just something they just cannot get past. Another 16% said the little or no response to their concerns or their tickets submitted. But an overwhelming majority, 53% of today's audience, said they cannot stand it when their vendors overpromise and underdeliver. Is that what you thought they were going to say, Subi? Because that's what I would have picked.
That is definitely what I thought they were going to pick. But the reality is I polled a lot of my near and dear friends who are dealer personnel, internet managers, directors, what have you, and I asked them for what they love and hate, because I think part of it is understanding, for vendors to understand what it is that dealers are expecting or disliking. You can only fix something when you know it's broken. So maybe, hopefully, we reach out to a few vendors saying, hey guys, this is what we're finding that we don't like, and starting some of that communication. So these are the quotes that I got from my friends. And getting a voicemail and no one to talk to for support, when vendors randomly show up, it makes us feel like our meetings aren't important, and they don't call in advance. Not getting a ticket completed email. So we don't know if something's actually been addressed or if it's an ongoing issue. When they answer yes to every single question that when they pitch, but they fail to deliver on the promises later. Or this was something that I got actually quite a few times. When we challenge, when we question, the line we get back is, well, if you sell just one car, you should be able to cover the cost of our services easily, or you should be able to upgrade your package easily. It's more than that, and they should know that. It doesn't come down to just what the cost is, it's what it is overall. And they just don't listen. Sometimes, again, the communication goes to the vendors too. We got to make sure that you are listening to what the dealers want. This one was actually a popular one when a vendor pitches me and they have no idea what we're actually doing. They haven't done their research and they talk like I have no clue. When they come and hang out for hours. One of my very first dealerships, we had a huge problem, and we had to write it into a contract that the rep, if we were going to re-sign with them, that the rep could not come back unless it was a scheduled visit for a short amount of time. That's how bad it got. So this is a little bit of communication on the dealer side to tell the vendors, but vendors also know that we have jobs to do too, and maybe you can communicate how long we can have these meetings for. And then when they recontract into a new agreement with double the cost, to right as soon as we sign up. When sticking to the lines mean more than answering questions. And when we address a problem, it becomes a finger pointing as to what we're doing wrong and how we need to train our people instead of addressing what maybe the issues are. But we do have some love things in here.
Before you get to the loved ones, I want to share a couple of pet peeves that people have been sending my way.
All right, let's do it.
For instance, Andrew says, my real pet peeve isn't on there. I just feel like the vendors are only in it for the money, And then a different Andrew said, his pet peeve is when dealing with a repeated issue. We fix something, then next month it reoccurs. So there you have it.
Yeah, that's something that we all face. I mean, again, we understand that vendors have issues, things go wrong, but you also should put things in place to catch those things that we don't have to see on a daily basis. If a CRM company has something that's critical to our daily routine, it's not something that we should hunt for every single day to see if it works or doesn't work. It should be something that should be addressed. So I completely agree with those. And I got about 100 of those, and I tried to compile them into the ones that were most repeated. Unfortunately, I got a little bit less of the loves, but we do have some in here.
Oh, I have one more that they can't stand. Jacob wrote in, I hate when you sign up and then he said set up. I hate when you sign up and then they expect you to set up everything yourself, and I guess basically with no help. So thank you for that, everyone. Thank you for, now we've had our little gripe session. Now let's show our vendors some love now.
Yes, definitely. When a vendor finds a mistake and calls me to tell me they're working on it instead of me having to find it, send a ticket, and fight with them for weeks, that's actually something that I relate to. I love that. It tells me that you're ahead of it, that you'll own up to it, and you're working on it. I have so much respect for those vendors when they take time to get to know me, my team, and my dealership. If you are sending people to dealerships and all they're doing is talking in lines, they're not getting to know the people, shame on you. Because all we hear all day, every day is zero moment of truth. Be transparent. Make sure that you tell your customers everything, and be upfront and be honest and communicate with them and respond to their emails in time. And when we don't get that same respect, shame on you. I know I'm going off a little bit, but when you guys do take the time to get to know us and get to know how we think and what the voice is of our dealerships, oh my gosh, it's such a different world. And then when a vendor jumps on the phone with another vendor to fix a problem without me asking for it, I actually experienced that earlier this year. I had a problem, I tweeted about it, and a different vendor that had nothing to do with the actual problem but works with the vendors involved jumped on, asked me who it was, asked me what was going on, and they fixed it for me without, especially since the other vendor wasn't even working on a Saturday. So this really is something that jumps out to me. Delivering on promises, and get better and improve their products over time, and they give this to you as an added benefit at no extra charge. We want to be challenged, and we'll challenge you. So vendors, use your dealers that really want to challenge you and help you get to, I know that I have these vendor partners that I believe in wholeheartedly, and I will offer ideas because I really want to make them better because I believe in them that much. And there's tons of dealers out there that do that. And then this was a quote from one of them. When they listen, respect my opinions, and when I'm challenged and debated with instead of yelled at for disagreeing. That would be my #1 thing. Just because I question something doesn't mean that I'm out to get you. It means I want to know where you're coming up with something. So, takeaways. I came up with really what the biggest things were for this, but I also came up with a little PDF that talks about your road to vendor partnership, and Eliana is going to has a copy of it, so we can send this out to whomever wants it. So if you want to just write in and tell us that you want it, we can absolutely get that out to you for anyone who's really starting in this internet managing role. So evaluate fairly and consistently. Make sure you do it all the time, and just because a vendor was great when you signed up doesn't mean 2 years later that they've kept up with the updates and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So make sure you evaluate them as you go. Just because you have a great relationship with them doesn't mean you shouldn't be evaluating them. Do your research when you go into your pitches. Be prepared. Set expectations and hold those expectations and hold both your team and theirs accountable. It's exceptionally important to make sure that both teams know what they should be doing. So like I've said throughout this whole thing, communicate, 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 communicate. You can't get anywhere. I'm not a mind reader, so you got to tell me what you expect, and I'm going to do the same for you. Question everything. And network. The best people to get information from are the people that are doing the same thing that you are. Find like-minded individuals who think the same way, who are fairly evaluating things the same way, and ask them their opinion. And you know what? You may have completely polar opposite experiences, but to talk about it and to understand where they arrived at that conclusion is exceptionally important. I may have a horrible relationship with a vendor, and Kevin Fry may have a perfectly great experience with that vendor. And then Kevin Fry jumps on a webinar and shows me what I was doing wrong. So there you go. True story, by the way. That's one of the reasons why I respect him so much.
Did that actually happen?
That actually happened. 100%.
He's not on him, ready to leave. He sends
That's okay.
his regards.
I will tell him that I shouted him out later. But yeah, that concludes our little session. I hope you guys learned something.
Subi, well, let me just point out a little bit. When you were going through what you need to do with your vendors and that kind of thing, people were writing in, they were saying, amen. I wrote it down just so I could tell you. Amen, great stuff, good advice. My hand hurts from taking so many notes, and my personal favorite, word. So there you go.
Word.
Yes, people were loving what you were saying. And audience, as Subi had pointed out, if you would like a copy of that Path to Vendor Partnership, that PDF that she showed on that second to the last slide, I would love to get it to you. So if you want it, and thank you so much for writing into the question area and asking me for it. Unfortunately, I don't have access to this after the webinar concludes, but if you could, please email me directly, and I can also send you a PDF copy of this entire slideshow if you wanted it. So email me directly at eliana@dealerun.com. Here, I'll tell you what, I will email it out to you, eliana@dealerun.com. Okay, so I'm going to send this out to all of you so you have it, and email me directly and tell me exactly what it is you want. I also want to let you know that the PDF is also going to be linked. You're going to get a link to that PDF in an email that I'm going to send out later today with the link to the webinar recording. So you're going to want to check out that email. That email is going to be from eliana@dealerun.com. So you're going to get the link to the recording, and you're going to get the link to the PDF. But if you want me to send you anything else, hey, email me directly. I will help you out. Okay. Subi, how you doing, girl?
Yes.
You did great.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, audience, I also want you, you should see the comments coming in.
Okay.
Subi equals awesome sauce, somebody wrote. I just want you to know.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that was from Micah Burkholz, by the way. He wanted me to tell you.
I figured awesome sauce is kind of his thing.
Is that his thing? I did not know
He uses
that.
it all over the place.
That's awesome. Okay, audience, if you have questions for Subi, now is a perfect time to send those in. We're going to be getting over to those in just a minute. Now, before we get to the questions from you, our wonderful audience, we do have a little bit of business to take care of, don't we, Subi? It's that time. If you missed it at the beginning of the webinar, well, I announced that our good friends at Joyce Coons Automotive are giving away a pretty cool prize today on the webinar. One of you lucky webinar attendees is going to be winning your very own detective fingerprint kit, because as much as you may have to be detectives with your vendors, well, sometimes you have to be detectives in your office. This fabulous prize is going to help you practice your detective skills and help you catch any sticky fingers stealing your prized possessions off of your desk. So, all you have to do is answer a simple question about the presentation. So, saunter up to your keyboards and get ready. First one to write in the correct response is going to be walking away with this really fun prize today. So good luck, everyone. All right, Subi, I hope you mentioned this enough that they're going to know the answer to this. People are saying they're ready. Okay, here we go. Audience? I think it's easy too, but we'll see. Okay, audience, here we go. Good luck. The question is, what is the ultimate goal when entering a vendor relationship? It's a one-word answer. What is the ultimate goal when entering a vendor relationship? Oh, we have a winner! Ooh! Tina Lammers. Very first person to write it.
Congratulations.
Got it right. And the... No, it's not awesome sauce. But Tina Lammers, you are our winner today. And the correct answer was partnership. Congratulations, Tina Lammers. She says, woohoo. Tina, if you could also write to me your mailing address as well as the name of your dealership so that we can give you a proper congratulations and also send this great prize out to you. So... People are right there, so funny. Joshua and David and others, they're running. Darn it, we wanted it. Dang it. Arg, I wanted my very own fingerprint kit. Joshua, me and my team were really excited about it. Aw, you guys are so cute. Okay, well, I'm sorry you guys didn't win it. Unless you have a second fingerprint kit to give out to me.
Sure, I can throw in another one.
Oh, we're going to have to ask another question for that. Okay, hold on. Tina is from, I don't have the name of your, here we go, Sheboygan Chevrolet. Congratulations, Tina, on that. We want to, of course, congratulate, let's say it again, Tina Lammers from Sheboygan Chevrolet. Yeah, that's in Wisconsin. And, of course, we also want to thank Subi Ghosh and Joyce Coons Automotive for their generosity. That was a great prize, guys. Okay, we are going to get started on some questions from the audience. So, audience, if you have any questions, now's a great time to write it in. I'm getting the funniest comments right now. Okay. All right, Subi, go to the next slide.
Okie dokie.
And Tina says she's yelling in her dealership. She says, everyone wants to know why I'm so loud right now. Thanks so much. I never win anything. So congratulations, Tina.
Congratulations.
I hope you get lots and lots of enjoyment out of it. Okay, our first question comes to us from Andy. And I think this is so funny, Subi, because I know when you and I were talking about this webinar before we actually, when we were doing our practice webinar, I said I know what my question would be. Well, Andy actually asked the question. So Andy wants to know, how long do you suffer, you put suffer in quotes, with a vendor before you finally call it quits?
Okay, well, that's an interesting one. Well, I would say that it varies. I think it's different based on what kind of vendor. I think you have to evaluate based on each thing. So if it's a lead provider, every single month that we don't get the right quality or the right numbers is kind of a big deal. So I would start it about, honestly, I would give them 30 days at a minimum for if we've seen a consistent trend. But they'll usually tell you kind of a time frame of if something's supposed to change, how it's supposed to change, and how it shouldn't. For other things like an advertising agency or an inventory or a website, it takes a lot longer to get your website set up anyhow. So I would do my research and contact people and see if there really is something better out there before I just can anyone in the first place. But I don't mean to not give you an answer, but it really is different based on each one. And if you need help identifying what that is, feel free to email me and I'll definitely help you out. But for like a website company or a CRM company, all of those things are very different. Sometimes I give them 3 months, sometimes I give them 1 month. It all depends on what you are really expecting to change.
Okay, that was a great answer. And we have a follow-up question from Jillian, almost the same. Jillian wrote, well, how do you break up with a vendor without hurting their feelings? How do you get out of a bad vendor relationship without getting taken advantage of by the vendor? So I guess it's almost like breaking up with a boyfriend, or it's like, it's a divorce kind of thing. So do you
It is.
list out your, reasons for wanting to get out of the relationship, and then you still give them 30 days to try and fix it?
What I do is, that's why I keep saying speak early and often. Before you even come to that conclusion, you should have already given them chances to change what they should be changing. They should pretty much know that this is coming, just like you do an employee. Excuse me, in HR, we always have to make sure that we document, right? It's the same thing. Tell them, these are the reasons why I'm really unhappy with what we're doing here. And I know sometimes it's difficult because we have personal relationships, but I think you have to put that aside. Because at the end of the day, all of our paychecks, all of the people that are relying on the traffic, we have to answer to that. It's our careers, and it's okay. They'll understand. They always understand. But as long as you give them in advance, give them maybe 3 months. You're thinking, you know what? I don't see this going in the right direction, and it's our winter months, and these aren't strong months for us. And I think this is a great time for us to really reevaluate. So I tell them sometimes 3 months in advance saying, hey, this isn't working, and these are the reasons why. And is this something that you can fix? And if it is, I don't want to just get a blanket yes. I want to know what you're going to fix, how you're going to fix it, and how long it's going to take. And then I'm also going to tell you that I need to see these results. I need to see the changes, and I need to see something really happening for me to really want to stay on with you. So it's difficult, but you have to, it's business too, and it's okay to cancel when you clearly aren't getting something out of it.
It is? Now they can see you. You know that, right? Because here's the thing. Ultimately, you're responsible for getting the best results out of that vendor.
Right.
So if the vendor isn't producing, then at some point the relationship isn't working.
Right.
I know it's hard to say goodbye. I know.
It is.
All right, Jillian.
I have close relationships, actually, because the way that I go about it is to really be communicative throughout the process. And like the first initial telling them is difficult, but they understand. I'm still close with a lot of people that I canceled with.
Huh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's go to this. Jillian, I hope that helped you out. Certainly if you have a follow-up question, please let us know. All right? It's funny because David wrote and he said some vendors won't leave you alone when you do end the relationship. But you're okay with that, right, Subi? You said you still have close relationships with vendors that you...
I think it depends on how they communicate. I've definitely had to put my foot down and make it very clear that I don't want communication anymore. It depends on what they're trying to do. If they're trying to get you back and convince you to come back, that's fine, as long as you communicate with them what your boundaries are. And I know that seems a little, PC, but I don't see anything wrong with just telling them, I've made my decision. If you wanna get me some information in 30 or 60 days, feel free to email me. And they'll get the point. You just have to put your foot down about it sometimes. But it's okay to foster those relationships because you never know. Like I said, vendors change just as often as our dealerships do. When a new sales manager comes into play, processes change, things change, the outcome may change, the feel for the customers may change. So it's the exact same with vendors. What doesn't work for you this month may be vastly different 3 or 4 months later. So keep those relationships. You never know when it's going to serve you again.
David wrote back and she said, I had an issue with a vendor, and she actually told me she was going to lose her job if we canceled on her, and she gave me a big guilt trip. He said it didn't work, though. I still cut the vendor.
Yeah.
So
that's a difficult one. But
yeah, it is.
You have to do what's right for your business, too.
And Jillian, our first question from Jillian, or second question from Jillian, she says, thanks so much for the advice, Subi. I'm definitely able to use it. You rock.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, Megan wrote, them losing their job if you cancel isn't your problem. Thank you, Megan. Okay,
So,
let's go to Jacob. Jacob says, how do you handle issues when deadlines aren't met?
Deadlines. Well, I think,
and he wrote back, how do you handle issues when deadlines aren't met and you still need them resolved? There you go.
This is kind of a tricky one. I can only tell you what I do. And when I'm very clear about what needs to happen and in what time frame, now you also have to be understanding of what it takes. I'm not a programmer. My husband is, so I have a little bit of insight, but sometimes we think that it's so much easier to do something. So I would do my research and really come up with a realistic timeline. And once that happens, and you're still not getting the communication or a status update or some sort of progress in the matter, one warning, that's it from me. I have no problem seeking out whoever is their superior and making sure, because at the end of the day, an individual doesn't always represent the company. We all had employees who we've had to let go because they didn't do what they were supposed to be doing or they misrepresented us. And so I always try to make sure to give the company the benefit of the doubt, but also sometimes the superiors have no idea how important that issue is. So I have no problem going, if I don't get a response and if I don't get the resolve that I need, I always go above them.
Jacob's follow-up question was, could I ask for progress reports?
Absolutely. Why not? I always do. I would say, especially if there's a big issue, I have oftentimes said, hey, this is the problem, and I'm not super confident that this is going on, so I would like weekly updates on what's going on with this. Now, sometimes there's development teams involved that don't get the same communication, and sometimes they have reasons why they don't get the communication in the time and manner that you want, but they'll figure out a way to get it to you. Just stand your ground. I need an update. I don't really care how you get it. I need to know what's happening.
I think this goes back to that over-promising and under-delivering thing. If they don't meet the deadline, this is one of those things that really can just turn a consumer off entirely. So Jacob, I hope that information helped you out. Oh, he already wrote in thank you, and certainly if you have a follow-up question, please let us know. Let's go to a question from Micah. He says, so vendors hold conferences to educate dealers. Can we have a conference to educate vendors? Please.
Of course.
Do you think they'd come?
I don't know. I started off by saying, too, that I think that a lot of the habits that we hate so much, I don't think a lot of the higher-ups know about it sometimes. I think it's different personalities. I think it's you do what you got to do sometimes, and there's a lot of gray area, especially in automotive, and I'm not so sure that some of these companies really even know what's going on, or I'm sure that some of them turn a blind eye, but I think it's important for vendors to know how we feel and how we respond to things, so why not educate the vendors right back? Thanks, Micah.
Yes, and David wrote in, I completely agree with Subi. Again, it goes back to the communication aspect. Well, I agreed with that great statement that you made earlier on in your presentation when you said the basis of any partnership, any relationship, is communication. So, so part of the responsibility for the great results from a vendor, or getting those great results from a vendor, is on us.
Yeah.
On each of us to make sure that we're communicating exactly what we want.
Yep, absolutely. Oh, novel idea, I know.
I know. Gosh. You can't just pay them and have them do it all without telling them anything else. All right. So, great question comes again from David. He said, has Subi ever written a book or a white paper on this topic? I think it's something that would be very well received by anyone who deals with vendors. Oh, look at them putting you on the spot. I told you my people were going to put you on the spot. I know I warned you of this.
I have not. I've written like blogs here and there, but definitely something to consider. Thank you.
Definitely, but I'll tell you what, that PDF of the Path to Vendor Partnership is a great resource for you, and you're halfway to a white paper with just that one PDF. So, like I said, if you want it, please email me directly at eliana@dealerun.com. Subi Ghosh, you are a pleasure to have you on here, and
thank you so much.
Oh, gosh.
Thanks for having me. This was so much fun.
You know what? I have another question for you from the audience. I'm so sorry. The question is, so what about if you build a great relationship with a vendor and then they change something on their end and it falls apart? Talking it through hasn't worked. What are a few of the next steps you would take?
So this has actually happened to me pretty recently. They changed what it is that I loved about them. And first I started off by expressing my concerns and seeing what they were going to do about it, and then they didn't. And some of it we also have to understand is big company decisions, and maybe that they didn't see the value of that. So I made my concerns known, and then when I didn't get any communication back, I went to their superior and I wrote an email and I found contacts. I mean, we have such great ways of communicating the higher-ups of a lot of these vendor companies, I would say all of the vendor companies out there. I contact them directly, hey, this is what I'm thinking, this is what's going on, and I disagree with a change that you made, or I don't see why, and sometimes they'll give you a really good explanation, sometimes they won't, or the explanation doesn't marry what you are looking for your specific dealership, and then I started looking at other vendors that may have that. And just because you have a great relationship with someone doesn't mean that you shouldn't find an alternate solution to suit your needs right now. You can still carry that relationship, and if this vendor ends up changing and doing something different that's going to benefit you in the long run, go ahead and do that. But you shouldn't be spending $5,000 because you're friends with someone. You should be spending the money with a company that you know is going to give you that ROI.
Well, she said it. There you go. You should be spending the money who's going to give you the ROI. Audience, I hope you like what you heard today. You know what? Subi, you are wonderful. I'm hoping to have you back on this show sometime very, very soon. Oh, and yeah, Dave wrote back in, friends are friends, but business is business. I hope I said that right, David. I think that's how you wrote it. That was just an awesome presentation, and if you're following us on Twitter, so much great stuff was going on Twitter as well about this webinar. So check it out at #DealerOnWebby. And, of course, we're just past the top of the hour. I want to remind the audience a link to download a copy of today's webinar recording. It's going to be emailed to you later today for your reference. You'll also get a link to the Path to Vendor Partnership. It's 2 different links in the same email. And today's webinar is also going to be posted online within 24 hours. So just go to dealerun.com/webinars, and you can view our upcoming webinar schedule or access any of our past webinars too. And hey, this webinar is going to conclude in just a minute, and you're going to receive a short survey. Please fill it out and let us know what you thought of Subi's presentation today. Let us know how you thought she did. We're always looking for great feedback from our audience. Today we're going to randomly select a couple of people from all those completed surveys to also win some Google prizes, another chance to win. And DealerUn is going to be at the upcoming NADA convention. Yes. So if you're going to be there in New Orleans, January 24th to the 27th, well, we want to see you. Please stop by our booth at 5209, and we'll talk about websites, SEO, digital marketing, conversion rates, whatever you got, we're there. We want to just yammer on with you. And, hey, if you want to stop by and tell my bosses what a great job you think the webinars are doing, do that too.
I know I will. I will, for sure.
Thanks, We'd love to meet you. And while you're there, check out the awesome speaking sessions from Jeff Clark and Chris Daringer, both fantastic speakers You definitely don't want to miss this. And by the way, invitations are going out tomorrow for our next webinar, and man, it is a doozy. Unleashing the power of YouTube and video to sell more cars. So by now, everyone knows that YouTube is like a truly powerful and popular website. It's the second largest search engine in the world. So why are there so many dealerships that have yet to take advantage of it? If you're not using YouTube to improve conversion, traffic, customer loyalty, branding, or your bottom line, well, then you are missing an enormous opportunity. If your dealership has been holding off from fully utilizing YouTube and video, then wait no longer. The experts are here, and they're ready to help. We got Peter Lito from Google and Mr. Video himself, Phil Sura from UnityWorks Media. They've teamed up to present a powerful overview on how video and YouTube can drive swift and dramatic results for your dealership. This amazing presentation is going to focus on website video strategies and best practices that dealers are using right now to drive conversion and sell more cars. So don't miss this opportunity to hear from two of the most knowledgeable people in the industry about how to unleash the power of YouTube and video to sell more cars. It's going to be another fabulous presentation by your friends at DEALERUN. And don't forget, DEALERUN's weekly webinars are held Thursdays, 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And we have some awesome webinar subjects planned for 2014. But if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions regarding these webinars and our topics, feel free to contact me directly. Again, my name is Eliana Raggio. I love hearing from you. I'm everywhere online. Facebook, Twitter, Google+. I'm on all the automotive social networks. So track me down online or email me at eliana@dealerun.com. And before I sign off, I want to thank you all so very much for spending this time with us today, and I hope to see you all on another webinar in our continuing education series. Have yourselves a good one.